everybody, and welcome back to the stream. It's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's time for Jump Around, our weekly cardio class. It is, okay, good, it's down to 71 degrees. A nice, totally normal in November, 71. Hey, who's burning down the planet? Not humans. Ferg. Anyway, hello everybody. Welcome back. I hope your week's going pretty well. I am almost ready to complete my recertification for my personal training, which is super exciting and not a bit wild. I realized that I mentioned it in the tweets yesterday and then totally forgot to say anything on stream. That yesterday was the 2-year anniversary of me taking and passing my test, which is crazy. I can't believe I've been doing this for 2 years, and I had no idea what I wanted to do with this when I started out. You know, I'd been let go in a really shitty manner from a previous job, and I was just personal training had been sort of floating around in my head for a while. And it was well, I have all this time on my hands. I might as well, get the certification and then figure out what to do with it. But I really had no idea where I wanted it to go. I had a lot of short-term plans. It was okay, well, my mentor at the Rock Gym has been pretty clear that I'll get to teach there. So, cool. I'll start teaching there. But I hadn't really thought about it in the long term. And, 2020 has been a real shit show in a lot of ways. Apologies to any younger people watching this. Hopefully there's not a ton. But one of the things that it has really done right for me, is to help me really hone in on what I want to do with fitness work and with personal training and teaching and all of this stuff in a way that I hadn't before. And that's been kind of amazing. It's been amazing to feel like I actually have a direction that I want to take this in. And, it's not a straight and easy path, because nothing is. But there's a path. And that's super exciting. And y'all are a part of it too. I mean, if you had told me in January that I would be teaching 4 days a week on Twitch, I would have been surprised, because this idea had been floating around in my head for a while, but in that sort of vague, out to the side way where you're oh, that would be kind of cool. All right, time to go about, the rest of my life. I really had to pull this together this year, and I'm pretty happy about it. I have to say. And I'm excited for where it goes. So, yeah, soon, the only thing I have to finish off is re-upping my CPR certification. Which anybody needing CPR certification for anything that you're doing, I actually really love the approach that they're doing right now. They're doing blended classes. So you still need to have an in-person skills check, but they've designed a whole online course for 99% of the content. And it's just really convenient. So I'm spending a couple hours going through the online content, just refreshing my knowledge. All of it's coming, all of it is there. And then I'll go in tomorrow for an hour-long skill check, I think. And then I'll be done. So it's sort of the best of both worlds, and they're obviously really controlling the number of participants and no sharing equipment and all of this stuff, so it'll be as safe as it can be. And y'all know that I really don't advocate going outside if it is at all an option to not. Unfortunately, I have to have certification that has a practical skills test for it to be valid for my personal trainer certification. And, that's just something that I have to do. So, getting that done. But I'm pleased. I think that they've done a good job of whittling down what has to be in person to the barest minimum. And it's like, okay, I know what I'll be tested on in there, and it'll be pretty quick and easy, I think. So, yeah, and then once that's done, just pay my recertification fee. All of this takes a lot of money, which is really frustrating, but hey, late stage capitalism. But then it'll be done, and then I'll be a personal trainer for another 2 years. I'll be able to keep teaching these classes. I mean, obviously I could keep teaching these classes, but like, I want you to be confident when you're coming to class that I have at least some idea what I'm talking about. Not all the ideas, because that's not possible. I'm still learning a lot, but at least some idea of what the heck is going on. So, yeah, it's a good week, and I'm glad that you're here, celebrating with me, working out with me. I have, yes, still been basically mainlining the Desert Bus for Hope stream, so anybody looking for a lot of feel-good wonderfulness on the internet while raising money for a really incredible charity organization, Child's Play charity, check out Desert Bus for Hope. They've been on the front page of Twitch for the last several days, so you can probably just find them there. But yeah, it's been a really calming and soothing presence, in a time when everything just feels so up in the air, and there's been so many stressful and painful things to happen this year, personally and just in the world. And it's really incredible to have a week of just, it feels like spending time with old friends, and there are people in the chat who I only see once a year, and I see them at Desert Bus, and then we go about our lives for another 360 some odd days, and then we see each other again, and it's really delightful. So it is definitely the webathon that we need, and hopefully the one that we deserve right now. All right, my loves. Well, we're here. So I'm still going to be taking it easy on my shoulder this week. I think I'm still going to do something akin to what I was doing last week, just because it's better, but it's still stressed out, and I'm not able to get in any like doctor appointment to hopefully get it calmed down a little bit. So I want to just keep taking it a little easier. So I'm going to see if I can do a little bit more of class today, but I'm going to really be paying attention to that. And but I'll still be demonstrating things as per usual, all the fun stuff that you have come to expect here. All right, well, I am feeling overheated because it's 71 degrees out, so let's do our pre-class checklist. These segues are great today, just perfect. So we got our water bottles. And we've got our comfy clothes on. We got our mats, or our mat-sized space on the floor. And if you're using a fitness wearable, now is the time to turn it on. High intensity interval training is the setting, and also the class. And we're gonna be rocking and rolling today. So everybody really make sure you are ready. But first we are going to start with our warm-up. Oh God. Just awkwardly shuffling ourselves over to our mat. So on your mat, on your back, one foot crossed over the opposite knee. And as soon as you hear the horn, we are starting with hip rocks and bridges. So remembering to engage the core to pull that hip up in the air, and then a nice bridge. Remembering to, so this is the warm-up, so we are not immediately going to, all right, I gotta do full energy, full height, full power on everything. That is not what we're about, okay? The warm-up is specifically designed to slowly build you up to the place where your body is ready for the intensive exercise that's going to put itself through, all right? We are not starting at 100% energy. We are booting up systems, okay? We're booting up our brain. We're letting it know, all right, it's time to start sending those signals firing down to our muscle fibers. We're letting our muscles know, okay, it's time to start turning on our energy production systems, breaking down that ATP so that we can have the energy that we need to make it through class. So do not put all of your energy into these first 16 minutes and then leave yourself with nothing for the rest of class, okay? That's not ideal. So we're on our second side. You may, as I have noted before, you may notice a little bit more of a stretch in the hip on one side or the other, depending on your hip flexibility, because when we lift this knee to rock the hips up in the air, we're pulling this whole leg apparatus closer towards our chest. If you've ever done like a pigeon stretch in a yoga class, you'll know that that is an incredible stretch for the outside of that hip socket. So enjoy. If you're getting a little bit of a hip stretch there, maybe we'll do that stretch at the end of class. It's been a while since I've done that. All right, so now we go into our leg sequence, starting off with everybody's favorite, Jane Fonda. So check in on your straight line. That's the first thing that you should check in on, okay? Depending on how good your spatial awareness is, you may be like, oh no, I got this. I can totally set myself up in that line, and I know that I'm in that nice straight line. I'm engaging the glute when I lift the leg so it's not drifting forward, but I'm not actively trying to pull it behind me. That was a mistake that I made when I first got the note that I needed to pull the leg backwards. I was like, oh, pull the leg backwards, and I started actively pulling it behind my body. Well, that's wrong too. All I needed to do was engage that glute, and it kept my leg in line with the rest of my body so it didn't drift forward, but I wasn't actively trying to pull it backwards either. So that is the goal. All right, then we take that top foot flat on the floor in front of that bottom knee. We are lifting the bottom leg like this, all right? So getting that nice leg work in and checking in on our hip and on our knee positioning. Again, this is our first opportunity to start paying attention to our knee positioning in a position that will eventually be used for things like squats. So obviously here, I'm not putting any weight on this leg, so it's pretty low stakes. If my knee started caving forward, it's not the worst thing in the world, but because it's low stakes, this is a great time for us to pay attention to, okay, what do I need to do in order to pull the knee open enough so that it stays pointing straight over the foot, okay? What do I need to engage in that hip socket to really pull that knee backwards? All right, so just think about that whenever we do that exercise. But now, we're going to our third and final one on this side. Our nice and easy, we've got this nice stable position. We're not worrying about rolling back and forth, so we can really just focus in on lifting this leg, seeing what muscle groups are engaged in that process. We're lying on a beach, we're super chill, it's comfy. Checking in on how you're holding your foot, which is something that I don't honestly have a ton of opinions on. You'll notice that I sort of go back and forth between flexing and just letting it fall naturally. You can also point. That's absolutely fine. For whatever reason, for this exercise, that doesn't feel as natural to me, so I tend to have a loose flex, basically. but whatever makes you feel comfy. All right, and then we switch to the other side. Do the same 3 things again, starting with Jane. So we talk about this a lot, but if you are struggling to feel whether you are in a straight line, and that's not necessarily something that you can just automatically do, especially if you haven't really trained up your own spatial awareness. So you may be like, well, how do I even tell? And that's obviously one of the downsides of me not being in the room with you to check your form. But for this in particular, you have a really nice, easy place to measure yourself, which is the straight, long edge of your mat. So get yourself set up along that straight edge of the mat, okay? And then you're like, okay, well, I can feel pretty confident that I am in a straight line, and now I can start to feel how that feels in my body. So I can hang on to that knowledge and slowly but surely get to a place where I can get myself into that position without needing to use that help, okay? Now we are back doing with the foot in front of the bottom knee, lifting that bottom leg, all right? Is this your more flexible hip or your less flexible hip? If it's your more flexible hip, then you're probably just sitting pretty, having no trouble keeping your knee pointing up towards that ceiling. If it's your less flexible hip, you may need to be engaging muscles wrapping around your hip joint, okay? So I'm sort of pulling that knee backwards and keeping it there, not wanting to let it start caving in, which is what it naturally wants to do, okay? And now back to our beach pose for our final leg sequence before we move into waking up and stretching out our backs and our hips. All right, so the next sequence is going to be all about active stretching, which is what we prefer doing in the warm-up, okay? Static stretching is going to be more effective and less dangerous. It's not quite the right word, but it gets the point across. After we've done class, we've warmed up, our muscles are really warm, they're a little bit looser, they can stretch a little bit more easily. If you're trying to do static stretches here, you have to be really careful that you're moving really slowly into them. Otherwise, you're going to be pulling while the muscles are trying to contract. Tearing can be involved. It is not a safe place to do those static stretches, which is why we set ourselves up for active stretches. So activities, exercises that have us move into something that's going to stretch us out a little bit, but we're not holding the position, okay? So we can use a little bit of that momentum to help the stretch, and the constant moving means that we're not just holding and trying to really pull those muscles apart. So here we're introducing a nice twist into our lower and middle back, and we're keeping those forearms planted on the ground, making sure that the elbows are not coming up, all right, so we can really tell just how much flexibility we have. How much of a twist can I do before I have to start lifting my elbows? Well, that tells me how flexible I am. All right, hiya, standing, moving right along, holding our imaginary PVC pipe above our heads and doing our nice big torso rotations, changing directions. I generally do every 2 rotations or so, so that I can even myself out since we're not doing this on multiple timers, okay? Yeah, definitely gonna take it easy on the shoulder today. Make sure that your arms are staying in the same position relative to your head the whole time. They're not actually moving. They're staying straight, their elbows are straight, and they're holding right here. So you're only moving from the hips, all right? And the arms are just coming along for the ride, basically. And As we switch into squats, it's going to be the same thing. Our arms are staying in the exact same position that they were in, and now we're introducing ourselves to squats. So I'm taking a pretty wide stance. This is a little bit wider than shoulder width, okay? But that's because I can be sure that my knees are staying straight over my feet the whole time, okay? At no point are they starting to cave in towards each other. So if you can't hold that position without your knees trying to cave in at some point, then you need to narrow your stance, and you need to practice there until you've strengthened it up enough that you're like, okay, let's take a slightly wider stance and see if I can hold those knees in the right position, okay? So don't worry if it takes some time to build up. That is what we're here for. The whole process of fitness itself is a marathon and not a sprint, my friends. This is not something that we become magically perfect at. It takes practice, it takes time, and it takes work. And, you know, we can be really hard on ourselves. We can really be hard on ourselves when we don't feel like we're progressing at this mythical rate that we're supposed to be going at. But you know what? Everybody's different. Everybody's body is different. And it is more important to go at the pace that's right for your body. And you'll find that some things are easier than others for you. You'll find that there are some things that your brain just understands a lot more easily, a lot more quickly, and some things that take longer for you to really gather, and that's fine. All right, we are in our last back and hip section. So we're activating both right now. So we're holding this really deep, wide squat, hands on the knees to keep them levered over those feet. And then we're bending one shoulder in at a time towards the midline and getting that twist in the upper back this time, okay? So we have it easy in terms of keeping the knees over the feet because we have the hands to help us. Just be aware that there are plenty of exercises that we might have to do that will require you to keep that positioning by yourself without the help of your hands. So not a bad idea to just pay attention to that. Make sure that you're still activating the muscles that would be needed for that, even though you don't technically need them right now. All right, jumping jacks. So here we are in the cardio portion of the warm-up, and remember, we're still building up in energy, in intensity. We're still not at full yet, okay? We still have 45 minutes of class after we finish this warm-up. So I'm doing jumping jacks to start getting my heart rate going a little bit, to start getting my breathing coming a little bit faster, but I am not trying to do full-size jumping jacks with arms extended and really wide jumps, you know. Keeping it pretty easy, and that is exactly what we're trying to do. So again, don't just jump into full intensity just because we've hit the cardio portion, all right? We are still warming up, turning on those last few systems. Now we come down to our kick-throughs, and remembering that you want to make sure that you have all of the elements of the kick-through under control before you start adding additional speed onto it. So you want to make sure that your shoulder is stable and strong directly over that wrist. You want to make sure the standing leg, 90-degree angle, knee pointing up towards the ceiling, not letting your butt sink down towards the floor, not letting your knee cave forward. And then you want to be able to switch to the other side and put yourself into that position as well. So if you need to move slowly between the two sides, that is totally fine. That is better than trying to go really fast right away and not doing the exercise correctly. So now we finish out with our burpees, everyone's favorite, jumping into a plank, but then doing a wave push-up, jumping those feet forward, and then a nice big victory clap up at the top. So remember, it is a wave push-up. That is a directive. All right, I know, we're jumping into this nice plank, and you're like, oh, I can do a plank push-up. But no, the exercise is asking you for a wave push-up today, as in all days. Make sure that you can really hear that victory clap though. We want to be cheering ourselves on. We want to be pumping ourselves up for the rest of the hour because we're in our living rooms. So it is on us to be our own cheerleaders. All right. Good job, everybody. Let's grab some water. Huzzah. Oh, man. Nice, nice, nice. A good warm-up, my friend. Even that little bit of warm-up gets a little bit of sweat, And I was not doing nearly as much of it as I usually do. So it's a good warm-up, It gets all those systems turned on. It moves through the different segments of the body, different movement types in a really nice way so that now we're pumped up, we're warmed up, we're stretched a little bit in a safe manner, and we're ready to get going. Woohoo! All right. So we are going to be doing a lot of tabatas today, and we're going to be sort of scaling up the amount of time and then scaling it back down. So starting with 20-10s, so 20 seconds of work to 10 seconds of rest. We've got 3 exercises. First one is going to be mountain climbers, so back in that nice pretty plank, shoulders directly over wrists, butt out of the air, and driving our knees up towards our chest while not pushing ourselves back into a downward dog position, all right? You want to maintain that plank position even as you're moving, which means a lot of strength and stability in the shoulders. Second exercise is skips. Super easy. We're just skipping in place right here on the mat. Do. So delightful. One knee comes up, the opposite arm comes up, hop and switch. And then third is going to be side-to-side mat jumps, which I'm going to be very careful on because I have furniture you can't see. But stand on one side of the mat, on that front leg, the other leg is crossed behind, and I'm driving the jump with my front leg. That's where the power is coming from. Jump all the way across to the other side. Tap down a hand if you want to, but only for balance. And then back and forth and back and forth, okay? All right, so mountain climbers, skips, and mat jumps. 20 seconds of work to 10 seconds of rest. So everybody head over those mats. The first sound does not mean go, which is nice. First sound means stop and relax. Knock, knock, knock means get ready. So down, in position, and we're going. So for tabatas, when we talk about starting on time and stopping on time, it's a lot easier because we have that rest period built in. So starting on time, when I hear that horn start to go, I start to go. Stopping on time, when I hear that horn go, I can stop moving. Awesome. Super easy. Knock, knock, knock tells me to get in position so that, hey, as soon as I hear that horn, I am not letting it fully play out. I am not waiting for me to tell you what to do. In this instance, the arbiter of truth is that horn, okay? So don't ever be waiting for me to to tell you, okay, now you go start doing the next exercise, because I will not always be paying attention to whether I've said that out loud. So it is all about you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, so we're doing our first run of side-to-side mat jumps. The nice thing about the 20-10, 20 seconds of work, 10 seconds of rest, this is sort of the platonic ideal of the Tabata. 20 seconds, not a lot of time. It lets us really hone in and sprint, okay? We are sprinting for the course of those 20 seconds because it is so short of an interval that we can do that and get our energy back when we have that 10 seconds of rest, all right? So I want to be going the whole time and not stopping until that horn goes. And that is how you're going to get the full benefit out of the Tabata, right? So we don't want to be, stopping in the middle and going, all right, I need a little bit of a break. Especially on the 20-second work intervals, you can do this, all right? You are getting plenty of rest. You are getting plenty of opportunities to sit back, relax, prep, think about what you're doing, and start doing the exercise, all right? So it's not like with our perpetual motion sets where we have to be thinking about how do I transition from one exercise to the next? How do I minimize the amount of time that takes? All of those questions. Here, it's super simple. It's just knock, knock, knock. All right, I'm ready. And I'm going. Our last run through those mountain climbers. So this is a place where if you are not engaging your shoulders, if you don't have that strength and stamina, mountain climbers are miserable. So that is the first thing to really focus on. And when you're losing it, when your butt starts coming up into the air like that, okay? It means that you no longer have the strength to hold that safe plank position. So it's a nice marker. It's frustrating, but it's a nice marker because we can tell, you can tell pretty quickly too. It might take you a little longer than it would take me to visually ID, but you'll be able to tell pretty quickly. All right, you just finished your last run of skips. Now time for that last run of side-to-side mat jumps. Remember that you are driving, all of the power for the jump is coming from that front leg, all right? We've got a leg crossed behind us, but we're not trying to put weight on it. So everything is coming from the leg that is crossed in front. All right? Yeah. Nice, nice, nice. Oh, man. Good job, my friends. Time to grab a little bit of water. Water. Is there anything better? Why are we so bad at hydrating ourselves? Oh my goodness. It's crazy. It's crazy. It is so important to keep yourself hydrated. And if that's something you struggle with, try setting alarms, honestly. Try just setting a timer and be like, okay, every couple of hours I'm going to check in and go, oh, have I drunk water recently? Nope. Okay, let's get up from whatever I'm doing, grab some water, and get back to it. Most of us are in our homes all day, so that makes it easy. Some of us, unfortunately, are not. Some of us are sadly out in front-facing positions, restaurants, bars, coffee shops, grocery stores, places like that, where you can't really safely just have a drink of water whenever you need or want one. And, that just means that you have to spend more time outside of work hydrating to make up for the hours that you're not as easily able to do so, which is really fucking frustrating, and you have my sympathies. All right, my loves. Next set, we are going up to 30 seconds of work, but still 10 seconds of rest. 3 new exercises. The first one is kick throughs. Y'all know what you're about with kick throughs. I'm not going to go over it again. Second exercise, ankle reaches. Lying flat on that back, reaching these legs straight up towards the ceiling. Engage the core so it lifts the shoulders off the ground, and reaching for the opposite ankle, one at a time. And then our third is star jumps. So similar to the jumping jack, but we're going to jump the feet out in the air and land them right back where they started. Out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in. For our arms, easiest is just letting them bounce like this. If you want to go for a little more intensity, you can have the tips of the fingers meet over the head and then bring the elbows down. So that just means that they have to move through more space, which means that you need to put more power into that to move them quickly. All right? Okie dokie. Let's get back to our mats and get that timer started again. This first sound does not mean go. I know that plenty of you who have taken class with me for a long enough time are probably like, why does she always say that? Believe me, plenty of times that you're just on autopilot and you're like, oh, I heard a sound, that means go. But that sound that we just heard did mean go. So hopefully you're doing your kick throughs. I'm gonna stay away from them for right now. But again, another exercise where that strength and that stability in the shoulder is going to be critical. And it's one of those things that we have to train up, and we don't get a lot of training in it. We don't get a lot of really focused shoulder attention in many things that we do. And our shoulders are our most unstable joint for good reason, because they are designed to be incredibly movable and have incredibly wide ranges of motion, so they're not designed to be stable, but sometimes they really need to be. And you have to know how to engage the muscles going into those shoulders and really stabilize them and be like, nah, I know you're a ball and socket joint, but you're not going anywhere right now, okay? All right, coming around to our first set of star jumps. Excellent, excellent. So remember, whatever version you're doing is totally fine, okay? I generally will stick with this easier version because it's easier on my shoulders, because having to lift my arms quickly above my head like that really puts a lot of intensity on my shoulder, that a lot of times it's like, nah, I don't really like that. So that's another thing that's really important as we're coming around for our second run through, starting with those kick throughs. Something that can be really important, as we get older, we collect injury states. It's just something that happens, Most of us did sports or dance or various activities like that when we were younger, probably racked up some injuries through that. Some of us have racked up injuries as we've, moved through adulthood. And one of the things that is incredibly important for you to have a handle on, you, the person doing the exercise, is what modifications you might need to make in order to safely do an exercise, all right? So I don't need to really worry about anything here for ankle reaches, because my core is incredibly strong, and I am not worried about my body trying to compensate with other muscle groups. I know that my core is doing the work that it's supposed to be doing. But whenever I do anything that involves me having to be in that stable position, puts a lot of pressure on my shoulders, or moves my shoulders around, I need to be aware of, okay, how does my shoulder feel today? If it's feeling a little touchy, what do I need to do to modify? Right here, I might even go into flying chickens rather than doing star jumps at all, okay? And that's totally fine. They're basically the same exercise, just with a different arm approach. But it's something that I need to be able to know for myself, you know? As a trainer, if I'm in the room with you, I can sometimes zero in on injury states and go, okay, you know, do this modification, or you can tell me and I can suggest something. But when you are working out alone, or when you are working out via internet community, you need to know this. You need to be like, okay, I have that old knee injury, so I need to pay attention to my fatigue level when I'm doing these jumps, or I need to maybe not be doing squats that are as low, or I need to narrow my stance, you know, whatever you need to do. This is information that's super important for you, okay? And you should be gathering it, because I'm not always going to be there to give you a suggestion of a modification, you know? And if I'm not there, I want you to still be as safe as possible. So always, that is really critical knowledge to build up, you know? And some injuries don't persist. I used to sprain my ankles a lot when I was in high school, middle school through high school, as many of us did. But I did a lot of PT in those years as well. And as I entered into adulthood, that connective tissue got a little bit stronger, more stable, and I will occasionally roll my ankles, but they're pretty strong now. I do not have to worry about them. So it's, you know, that is an older injury state that didn't really persist into adulthood. Whereas my shoulder stuff is new. It's within the last 10 years maybe. But that is something that has persisted for a long time, and that I kind of expect will be with me for the rest of my life. So I need to know, all right, what do I have to do when I'm really feeling something there? How do I modify? What exercises can I sub in? If I don't think that the current exercise is one that's going to be safe for me. That's all really important information for me to know for myself, okay? I'm really jealous. I did a few months ago, right before COVID, right before everything locked down, I took what I did not then know was going to be my last trip for a while, out to Seattle to do a motion capture and performance capture workshop with TJ Storm and Andy Norris, who are two just titans of that particular field and industry. And TJ was terrifying. He could literally size you up when you weren't doing anything. When you were just standing there, he could size you up. He could walk up to you and be like, "You have a shoulder injury, huh? The left shoulder." And I'd be like, I aspire to someday have that intuitive and understanding of the body, that I can look at another person and be like, who's just standing there, and be like, these are your injury states. These are the things that we need to pay attention to. It was amazing. It blew my mind, obviously. I'm still thinking about it. All right. 45 seconds of movement, 15 seconds of rest. So you're getting a whole 5 more seconds of rest. Holy crap. Our first exercise is going to be toe squats. So y'all are pretty familiar with it. Feet in that nice hip width position. Squatting all the way down, letting those heels come off the floor. So I'll show you from the side. The heels come off the floor when to do otherwise would be to just stop the motion, and they come naturally back down to the floor as you stand up, okay? Second exercise is TikToks, everybody's favorite. Up in that pike, arms straight, hands together on one side of the knees. Extend out just far enough that you can move them to the other side, and then pop back up, and up, and up, and up, and up. And then our third exercise is going to be chaturangas to a downward dog. I don't know why I keep standing. My usual caveat, I'm not a yoga instructor. This is my interpretation of an exercise I have done in yoga classes, starting from a plank position, coming down as if we're doing a push-up. When we're almost to the ground, leave the hips down, extend the arms. Then push back to a downward dog, back to that plank, and repeat over and over. So these exercises are a little more focused on strength and stamina because these are longer intervals. We're not sprinting in quite the same way that we normally would, all right? We also have longer to rest, which is exciting, but it really is evened out by the additional 15 seconds of movement. So, you know, we haven't made it too easy for you, just to be aware. So we're gonna start with toe squats as soon as you hear that horn go. And remembering that, as with most things, the core is probably doing a lot of really important unsung work, all right? So for this, we want to make sure that as we go down and up, we are minimizing the balancing burden on our feet and ankles, because we're going up on the balls of our feet. That is not a large surface area for us to be balancing on. And if we're tipping over, if our torso is falling all over the place, then we're gonna really struggle to do the exercise safely. So make sure that your core is engaged, and that immediately controls all of this so that you don't need to worry that it's gonna be falling all over the place. All right. So for our TikToks, again, we talk about how easy it can be to compensate for weak abdominals by trying to use other muscles to drive the exercise. So maybe you're trying to focus on, oh, my quads can pull me up into that pike, or oh, I can pull myself forward using my head or using my arms. So really focus in and make sure that what is driving that motion is your abdominals, okay? If you come out of that and you're like, man, my neck's really stiff, well then, bad news. All right, I'm going to bow out of chaturanga to downward dog right now, but if you're used to doing that exercise in yoga, I think the main difference is that generally coming up to this position, there's a flipping over onto the tops of the feet before coming back into the downward dog. If that feels more natural to you, that's totally fine. I don't do that just because my experience with yoga is still pretty limited, and I never quite got the hang of that, so this version that I do just feels more natural for me. But if it's going to feel more natural for you to do the version you're used to in yoga class, go for it, okay? All right, so second time through. Let's see, other things that we want to think about for these toe squats. Making sure that gravity never takes control. So I don't want to come slamming down here so fast that I'm bouncing up and down on my knees. That is really unhealthy, putting a lot of bad pressure on it. So I can go fast, but no matter how quickly I am performing the exercise, I am still in control the whole time, okay? You don't have to go that fast. And in fact, if it's still a relatively new exercise for you, or if you struggle with knee stuff, then you probably don't want to go that fast. You probably do want to pull back a bit and go a little more slowly. All right, now we're doing those TikToks. So pulling yourself back up into the pike is really going to be focused on my lower abdominals, pulling and really engaging, just tightening everything back up together. So you don't have to worry about everything here participating in that. Just focus in on, okay, ooh, I felt that. I engaged the lower abdominals specifically, and that really helped pull me back up to that balance position on my tailbone, okay? So that is a good focus point. And again, when you're trying to really make sure that you are doing the exercise using the correct muscle groups, it's good to take that time to really deliberately go, what are the muscle groups that are engaging while I do this exercise? All right, and that's how we keep learning more about our bodies, about how they move, about what muscle groups are stronger or weaker, and what we may need to work on depending on what I'm telling you you should feel versus what you're actually feeling, you know? There are plenty of times where you may try a new exercise and go, I am not getting anything that she said I should be getting out of this exercise. And if that's true, then there are a few options. Maybe it's a flexibility-based exercise and you already have a lot of flexibility there, so you're just not feeling the stretch as much. Or maybe you are doing the exercise, but you're doing it with bad form, and so you're not actually engaging the muscle groups that are supposed to be engaged. So especially when you're doing something new, really hone in on what am I supposed to be feeling? And if you're not feeling that, start to try and figure out why. Don't just write it off as, well, it's a bad exercise, or, well, I'm just awesome at it, so I don't need to worry. I did that for years with boat rocks in particular. Every time I tried to do boat rocks, I was like, I don't feel like anything's happening. It's just because I have a really awesome strong core, that's really what it comes down to. Well, come to find out, when I actually strengthened my core and started really engaging it, I understood that all of those years, the reason I wasn't feeling anything was because I wasn't actually activating my abdominals while I was doing that exercise. So take a look back at any exercises that you've sort of written off in your head as, I'm just, really awesome at that one. I don't need to worry about it. Look back, because it may be that you are not actually activating the muscles that you should be activating, all right? The more you know. Just things to think about. All right, my friends. So this is your last time through TikToks, and you may be feeling really fatigued. You need to make sure that your form is just as good here in the third set as it was in the first two, okay? So now is the time to really focus in on that form. We're coming into our last exercise, our last run through those chaturangas. So what do we need to worry about? Making sure that we're starting from that nice plank position. Making sure that our shoulders are nice and strong and stable this whole time. Even though they're moving, they're not moving wildly, okay? They are moving in very defined tracts, not tracts, huge tracts of land, no. They're moving in very defined patterns, and you want to make sure that they are engaged the whole time, that even when they're moving, you're not letting them go into that really free-form movement that they're so good at. They need to be engaged, fully engaged the whole time. All right, awesome job, everybody. Woo. Ah. Yee, yee, yee. Okay. Water, just a beautiful thing. So, we are going to go back down to 30 seconds of work to 10 seconds of rest, okay? So, we made it to the top of the mountain, and now we're starting our descent, right? So, just 2 more sets. We've got 1 more set of 30-10s, 1 more set of 20-10s. And that last set of 20-10s, I might decide to be nice and just make it an 8-round cardio tabata rather than a 3-exercise cycle. We'll see. But our exercises for this one, first we've got side-to-side planks, a great exercise if you are working on strengthening your shoulders. This is a good one. From that front plank position, letting your heels drop to the side, coming up on one arm shoulder, directly over the wrist, nice strong perpendicular line, reach the other arm up to the ceiling, hold for a second, let the judges see it, then back down through that front plank and to the other side. And we go back and forth and back and forth. Second exercise, shrimps. Oh man, we didn't do shrimps for so long, and now I feel like I'm just throwing them into every class. But you know, I have no regrets because I love this stupid exercise. All right, so shrimps, moving ourselves up and down our mats by first rocking our shoulders, then hips, shoulders, then hips, shoulders, then hips. Oh, I hit the end of my mat. Time to start going back in the opposite direction. So a lot of oblique engagement in particular as we go through that. And then our third exercise is kneel to squats. So starting from a kneeling position, remember that we want to keep our head the same distance from the floor the whole time. So however low, basically, however low your standing squat position is going to be, that's where you need to gauge your head height for. I can take this pretty low. So I'm going to start flat back, letting my butt come a little bit behind me. I'm going to step one foot up, then the other. I'm in this really low squat, and then back down. If your squat is somewhere more up here, then maybe you're in more of an upright position when you're in the kneel, okay? So those are our 3. Whee! All right. Let's get onto our mats. I will use the correct timer. I bust up yesterday with the final timer of class too. Dang it. I accidentally hit the button for the previous timer, so it's a little extra exercise time that people weren't expecting. All right, so we are doing our side-to-side planks. Remember, side-to-side planks, we are not going for speed on these. Again, we want to focus on that strength and stamina for the shoulders. So adding in speed makes it more likely that we're going to loosen our control and the shoulders will start sliding around in bad directions, okay? So slow but steady is what we want. All right, now moving into our shramps. Good old Eleanor Shellstrop. A friend of mine just finished his first watch of The Good Place, which I am amazed that he was able to wait so long, but I was very pleased
that he watched and he clearly enjoyed it a lot, which is always exciting, right? I thought that show was one of the most remarkable things that I have watched in a while. So it's always nice when your friends enjoy the things that you enjoy, you know? All right, coming up to our kneel to squats. First time through. Again, I've got my core engaged. I'm trying to keep a nice flat back this whole time. I'm trying not to let it round over. So core engaged and keeping that back nice and flat no matter what part of the position I'm in. All right? And now, second time around, going back to our side-to-side planks. Again, you want to hold for a second before you move to the next side. So that's why I say let the judges see it, okay? And that's another reason why we don't want to be going super quickly, okay? You want to hold here long enough that I could take a picture of that position, all right? Woo. Oh, man. Nice to get a little bit of additional movement in today. All right, now we're doing our second run of shrimps. Remember that your hips can move a lot farther than your shoulders can. So make sure that you are that you're matching the distance your hips travel to the distance your shoulders can travel. Otherwise, you're going to be like a rowboat with one oar. You're just going to be turning yourself in a circle, which is definitely something that I have students do a lot, unfortunately. So definitely make sure that you're not just turning in a circle. All right. Oh man. And we're doing our second run through of the kneel to squats. So again, checking in on that form. When you're coming up onto the feet, how's that knee? Is your knee staying straight over your feet as you push into that squat? Or are you caving, okay? Pay attention. It's an awkward position. There's more intensity, but we still don't want our knees waggling around, caving around, okay? So you still need to pay attention to that. I'm just gonna, since I think I am done with this stuff for myself, trying to remind myself to be easy on my shoulders. I'm just gonna flip that back, but you're doing your last run of side-to-side planks. I really do love this exercise. It is one of the reasons why when my shoulder's not flaring up, I feel like I have busted through a plateau in terms of my shoulder strength and stamina. A lot of it has to do with my PT exercises, and the side-to-side plank is definitely one of them. And it's definitely the first place where I started to really feel that increased stamina and stability in my shoulders, so that when I went back to doing things like mountain climbers, I was suddenly like, this has never felt so easy for me before. I never felt like I could maintain this for longer than like 10 seconds, maybe 15. This is incredible, okay? So find the places where you are struggling, find the places where you feel like you don't have the strength that you want. And, you know, there are going to be exercises that you can use to strengthen, to build that stamina, build that stability, build that power, so that you can go back to those exercises and kick their butts the next time. Yeah! All right, we are on our last run of the kneel to squats. So finishing up, making sure that core is still engaged, keeping that flat back, okay? And now resting. Huzzah.
Huzzah, huzzah. Oh, all right. Grabbing some water. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, water's great. I love water. Fitness Mom says drink your water. Okay. And speaking of setting timers for things, you know, talked about setting timers for reminding ourselves to hydrate. It's also a great thing for reminding ourselves to stand up and move around. If you work from home, if you're at that desk all damn day, and not moving around, even if it's a standing desk, the best version of desk setup is a standing to seated desk, because it's not actually healthier for you to stand for extended periods of time than it is for you to sit for extended periods of time. It's just hard on your body in different ways. So it's better to be able to shift between those positions, but also we need to take time to move away from the desk setup completely and to stretch, to move around a little bit. And that's something where timers can come in really handy as well. If alarms and timers are a useful motivational tool for you, then I highly recommend setting some for water and setting some for moving around, because it can be really easy to get into that groove. You're at the desk and suddenly 8 hours have gone by and you only got up once to go to the bathroom or something, you know? And it's just not healthy. It's just not healthy, my friends. All right. We are going to do one last Tabata. 20 seconds of work, 10 seconds of rest, one exercise, 8 times through, and it's going to be bicycles. Wild and crazy. Usually I end on a cardio note. Today we are going to end on some hard ab work. So I am on my back, engaging my core to bring my shoulders up, bringing one knee in towards the chest, the other leg extended but off the ground. And I'm just going back and forth, bringing my elbow to the opposite knee. So engaging the obliques to have that, get that twist, okay? I'm not putting my hands behind my head because, again, a lot of times we do that and then we try to pull ourselves forward using our hands, and then we wonder why our necks are so stiff. Well, that's the reason, my friends. So really make sure that it is your abs, your abdominal muscles that are engaging, lifting your shoulders off the ground and moving you from side to side. Okay, so here we go. We are going to do this last timer and then we'll stretch a little bit. Only 8 sets. Oh yay, oh yay. First sound does not mean go. First sound means stop and rest and relax. Knock, knock, knock. Get in position, my friends, so that as soon as you hear the horn, you are moving. And again, 20 seconds, not a ton of time, so I can go for speed. I can go for getting as many reps in as possible. You see, I'm keeping my hands in front of my face, again, so I'm not tempted to put them behind my head and start pulling my head forward. So I'm just keeping them in front of my face and then twisting side to side to get the elbow to the opposite knee each time. All right? This may be hard or harder if your core is one of the areas that's a little weaker, has a little less stamina. All right? So something to really think about. Remember, form above everything. So I know I was just talking about really pushing for a lot of reps in the limited amount of time, but if you need to slow it down to make sure that it is your abdominals that are engaged and keeping your shoulders off the ground, that's fine. Even if you don't feel like you need to do that, check in. Check in. What, are they still engaged? Are they still what's lifting my shoulders up? Or am I pulling my shoulders off the ground, trying to use my shoulders
or back or head or something. All right, and we have a lot of abdominal exercises that can be great for strengthening this area. I talk about the slow leg lowers all the dang time. So again, figuring out what are the muscle groups, what are the joints, what are the areas that I want to focus some of my work on so that I can really make sure that I'm doing these exercises safely and so that I can push through to that next stage of performance that I want to get to, okay? These are the things you need to know. And, you know, usually if you're taking class, like you're not getting super focused individual attention generally in a class, but you do have a professional in the room who can give you notes, you know, if they see something, or you can give them information and get their feedback on modifications, on exercise recommendations, and stuff like that. But when we're doing our exercise like this, and I love this, I love teaching class like this because it's so accessible to so many people, and because it means that you need to take a more active approach to your own involvement in your exercise, right? You need to have a clearer understanding of your body's needs, of what areas you want to be working on, and you need to manage that information, okay? And that's great because it means it gets you really actively involved in the process. And obviously, I think that fitness instructors and personal trainers play a really valuable role, but it can also be really easy for us to depend on the expertise of our instructors and not really internalize any of that information for ourselves. And I did that in a lot of ways through my dance training, and it really wasn't until I started actively studying for personal training that I started to learn a lot of things that had never occurred to me before. And that information is super valuable, whether or not you're a professional. So try and start ramping up those knowledge banks, my friends. All right. Hey, we did it. We made it through class. That's super exciting. We're already on our mats. Let's do a little stretching. Let's get into our pretzel position to start with, I think. So I'm going to fold one leg. So it's lying on the floor, the knees on the floor. I'm going to pull that foot to my side, to the outside of the opposite hip, and just really pull that heel in. And then I'm going to take my other foot, bring it to the other side of this knee. So I'm in this nice sort of pretzel-y position. For whichever knee is pointing straight up at the ceiling, I'm going to take the opposite arm and I'm going to just pull it into my chest. And that is going to intensify the stretch right here along the hip, okay? And now we're going to add a twist into the back. So I'm going to turn away from this arm, extend my other arm behind me. I've got this nice twist in my back, reaching behind me. I've got that stretch in the hip. I'm going to just take 2 deep breaths here. Here we go. That's 1. That's 2. Now I'm going to turn around. I'm going to pull this ankle up on the knee, flexing the foot, which is going to help protect this knee, because now we're going to fold forward. Again, really deepening the stretch in the hip. So fold forward over this apparatus. So this is another way, you know, we talked about the pigeon stretch earlier. This is another way to get that stretch in. That's a little, as strange as it is to say, a little bit easier for more people to achieve. Okay, so we're just folding over, keeping this foot flexed. Oh yeah, you can let your forehead rest on the leg if you want to. And we're gonna take 4 deep breaths here. Here we go. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And 4. Roll back up. Let that knee, or let that ankle just gently pop off the knee. Stretch the legs out. Shake those knees out a bit. And now switch up the sides for your pretzel. So all of the same positioning, just on the other side, pulling that knee into the chest, feeling that stretch in the hip, twisting away, reaching behind us, getting that nice twist in the back, really pulling that knee in, feeling that nice stretch. Now we're going to take those 2 breaths here. Here we go. That's 1. And 2. Turning back around, pulling this ankle up, keeping the foot flexed to protect this knee, and folding forward. Oh yeah, feel that stretch. Feel that stretch in the hip socket. We love it. We love to see it. Now we're going to take those 4 deep breaths. Each time you exhale, try and drop a little bit farther into the stretch. Here we go. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And 4. All right, back up and let that ankle just come gently off the knee. Stretch the legs forward. There we go. Let's bring those feet together into a nice butterfly position, letting the knees fall open. And we want to come forward over our feet. Again, really trying to get a nice deep stretch in the hips, but we don't want to just roll over like this. The stretch really will intensify the closer we can get the lower back to the hips. So I want you to get a flat back and walk your hands slowly forward as far as you can go. And when you can't go any farther, then you can let your upper back round over. And that way, I'm in a much deeper version of the stretch. And I can really feel it in my hips, okay? So I'm just going to reposition myself. Flat back, walking forward. Now letting myself bend over at the upper back. And again, we are going to take 4 deep breaths here. Here we go. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And 4. Roll back up. Oh yeah. Okay. Any other stretches? I'm feeling pretty good here. I think I think that was pretty good. All right, my friends. Heard. what was the other exercise? Yeah, no, bicycles was exactly it. But we were just doing bicycles the whole time. There were no other exercises. You did it perfectly correctly. Sorry for the confusion. No, you were perfect. You were perfect. All we were doing was bicycles in that last one. I'm sorry that you were stressing out about that. All right, we're grabbing some water, my friends. Good. Good job. Good class. Good class. I'm feeling good. That was nice. I did a little bit more today. I'm going to still slowly ramp up over the week, really make sure I'm taking care of this, but it's nice to do a little bit more. But again, always important to know your limits. Always important to pay attention to the signals your body is sending you, okay? So make sure you're always doing that. So, but in that case, you're just mean. Look, I'm the teacher, right? I have to help you build up that abdominal strength, all right? I'm just being a good teacher over here. Please keep coming back to class. Oh my goodness. Friends, that was nice. It was nice getting up, moving around, but now it is time to end the stream, I believe. I have 2 more classes this week. So Friday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time is Functional Home Fitness, when we do, I see you, where we do weight training using objects you can find around the house. Saturday morning is the weekend kickoff, our awesome strength and stamina focused bodyweight class, and that's at 9 a.m. on Saturday. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All of those handles will be in my end cards, but they're all variations on Blanche Case Fitness. My YouTube channel of the same name is where I upload the VODs from these videos, and where I'm going to be putting a lot of additional form videos, stretching sequences, warm-up sequences, and that sort of thing. So definitely head over there and subscribe. If you want to help support me financially making these streams, I do have a coffee account, Blanche Case Fitness. Donations are always very much appreciated. And if you want to help keep growing this channel, then please do give us a follow. Tell your friends, loved ones, colleagues, anyone looking for a good class. We're rounding the corner on those Twitch affiliate metrics, and I am super excited to see what we can do when we get there. So yeah, all right, have a good shower, make sure to hydrate, have a good meal, wash your hands and wear a mask. If you have to go outside, please try to minimize contact with other humans. Take care of each other, and I will see some of you back here on Friday. Mwah. Have a great night.